What's up everybody? Today I'm going to be showcasing my NASCAR diecast stop motion track of Colorado Speedway. I'm also going to be showing you how to make your very own by giving you a detailed guide to the materials to make one just like mine. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, your first step is you're going to want to buy a 2x4 piece of plywood like this one right here. This is the kind that I used for my track and it works great. It's super smooth and you don't have to worry about the paint chipping if you use like painter's tape or anything. Yeah, it's really great, so I highly recommend this one because you don't want it to be too big or too small. Your second step is find a good bird's eye view picture of the track you want to make, in this case Colorado Speedway for me, and just start sketching out what you think you want to make the track look like, draw out all the lines and pit road and the curves and stuff, whatever's on there, just sketch it all out with pencil so that you know where to paint. I made the track precisely 4 die-casts wide when I was tracing it out, and I think it works great because you have to account for the room that the wall is going to take up, and then they can go 3 wide pretty easily, so I think that's a good width to make it. Step 3 is to paint the track. So I used a mix of probably around 30% black, 65% white, and then just a tiny bit of brown to make this paint color. Again, you just want a little bit of brown in there to make it look used, and black is super strong, and so yeah, I used that to paint the majority of the track. Of course I mixed up a little bit for the apron there, and as for those little patches, I just used a Sharpie, or no, I used a permanent marker, and I just colored it in, colored in little squares based on a picture of the track. It took a while, but it looks good in my opinion, so that's what I did for that. The next step is to start drawing in the white lines that you're going to need. So for my track, I just put an outline for the start-finish line for the restart zone, and then in the back there, I forgot to take a picture of this, but there are some lines, and for this I just used a white chalk marker. I don't know the brand exactly, but you can find them at any craft store, and most stores usually, so just look for a white chalk marker, and that's what I used, and I just used a little wooden block to help outline it. Okay, the next thing you need to do is you need to put the walls down. Now, I've seen a lot of different things that people use for walls. Sometimes they use styrofoam or poster board, but I've found that the best thing and the most realistic looking thing is craft foam. It's 1/4-inch craft foam that you can find at Michael's. That's where I got everything for this video actually. So just look for that, and then I used scissors to cut off little strips of it about the same height as each car. So that's what I did for the walls, and then you just hot glue them down, as I did with many other things for this track. Okay, now the next thing to do is to paste all the logos on here. I used a printer, but if you don't have a printer, a lot of times your local library or school might have one, so yeah, I just printed them out and then used a glue stick to glue them on there. Now the next step is to make these billboards that I have in the background here. It may look easy at first, but it's actually a little bit more complicated than you'd think. So what you're gonna need is you're gonna need to get some cork board. I'll show you what that looks like here. Yeah, you'll want some of this stuff, and I think this stuff is special because it bends really well, and it's really easy to glue stuff on there, and it looks good, kind of looks like wood from the back. So overall, this is my favorite stuff to use for billboards. And then I just use a glue stick like I did for the logos and glue the logos on there. Now I'm going to show you how to make the catch fence that I used for this part. A lot of people like to know how to make this, and this is probably the most patience requiring part of this process. The stuff you're going to want to buy for this part is called plastic mesh canvas. Again, I had to look up the name for this because I honestly had no idea. I just found it in the crochet section of Michael's. However, that's not all, because you actually have to spray paint it if you want it to look metallic like how I have it. So I used a metallic colored spray paint for this, and you have to let it sit outside for a whole night, and then it's ready to go in the morning. As you can probably tell, I also used a lot of hot glue for this part, so what I did is I put a bunch of glue on the wall before I attached it, and then I put the sheets on it and then kind of pressed it down carefully with my fingers. Now I'll speedrun some of the extra details I want to share with you. For the tire wear effect on the track, I used a black oil pastel that I kind of just rubbed over lightly until I got the shape and the texture that I wanted. And for the yellow lines, I got like the thinnest paintbrush I could find. I dipped it a little bit in yellow paint and then I very lightly dabbed it until I made a full line just to make sure that it was super thin and clean.